Welcome to the Bulldog Bites Lunchtime interview. This is being recorded on June 2nd. My name is Heather King. I am a professor in the English department at the University of Redlands. And today I have the immense pleasure of talking to Diane Adams, who is an alumna from the class of '82. Although she was a Spanish major, not an English major, but I'm going to overlook that, um, and is someone who I've met many times and who I like very much. So I'm delighted to share this time with her. Diane, welcome to the Bulldog Bites Lunchtime interview. How are you, and how are you coping with the insanity of the world that we live in?
Hi, Heather. I enjoy talking to you too, and I miss being out in the world. I am coping. My husband actually had major surgery, so we've had to hide. This was about a month ago. He had cancer, and while they caught it, we have had to hide at home with masks on, not go out, and it's finally freeing up a little bit. And been able to have coffee with a couple girlfriends in the backyard with masks on, and that just felt like such joy and freedom. And then with what has happened nationally, just watching on TV with a broken heart and watching almost all the energy from us being locked, in our houses for so long, coming out onto the streets. And just I pray for everybody, that somehow we can make changes, somehow we can come out of this a better country. But I don't know the answer. And I wish just maybe human kindness one-on-one to each other is the way to start. So,
Couldn't hurt as a place to start, certainly.
yeah.
And I hope your husband's recovery is going smoothly.
It is going very smoothly. He's getting back to doing things and getting back outside, but still wearing the mask. But that was a little surprise thrown at us at the start, and not being able to be in the hospital with him and all that. So we're going with the flow and finding joy in small wins. So yeah,
Right, can make you appreciate smaller things. Yeah,
it does. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit about your time at the University of Redlands. I had said when we spoke before that I was very curious because it was a different Redlands than I've known. So I'm just share some of your dark secrets about
Well,
your time as a student.
I hope I can name names that students from the 1980s would recognize. Like, I moved in there a couple years into college. I started out at Cal Lu, and I lived at Cal Founders and then moved to Harrison House. But I know at Harrison House, you had to have like a mission that you were going to accomplish. So I called my old roommate, who is now my sister-in-law, and I said, "What was our mission?" And she said, "I have absolutely no idea." So it is humiliating to think that, no, we forgot the mission. But I do remember Moody Blues playing in the background while we were painting our room in Harrison House, and how her boyfriend, who is now my brother-in-law, would climb into the window every morning on his way to coach water polo at the University of Redlands. So those are some of my memories. And then Dr. Kanja was a memorable teacher. Dr. Marquez, Iola Threet did education. And so those are a few of the professors. I remember going out to get meals in our pajamas at the drive-throughs, and the homecoming king that we counted the tallies for it, and Craig Winningham, the star football player, quarterback, won. He beat Harry Ringer by one vote, and Harry was Gamma Nu. Um, and so just being a part of the background things, and fun college memories from that time.
Excellent. And Dr. Eugene Kanja's name is familiar to me, not because we overlapped as colleagues, unfortunately, but his name is, we give out an award every year to outstanding senior work, and the award is named in his honor. So his legacy lives on in the department, and we invoke him every year to single out and honor students. So it's nice to see that continuity.
That comes through. I know, and I really am trying to think of other things that people would remember. I took a course from Johnson College in poetry, but I cannot remember the professor's name. And then I was a sweetheart for Alpha Beta Pi fraternity, which was a made-up fraternity where you had to smash an Alpha Beta Pi into someone's face to get in, plus eating a full pie. So the silliness and almost the Animal House like fun was there, but I did graduate with a degree in Spanish, and then I went back later, got a degree in English, and ended up being a college professor for many years teaching English. So there, in spite of maybe not being the best student, I really did get a great education.
Excellent. I feel the need to point out, because I'm very aware of this, I was actually born in Claremont. My dad taught at Pomona, and so I lived in Claremont in the 70s. And I think the Alpha Beta chain no longer exists. So I feel the need to footnote that Alpha Beta was a grocery store chain, just for some of our younger viewers, perhaps, so that the Alpha Beta pie is a reference to the equivalent of a Stater Brothers pie, perhaps.
Yes, and Alpha Beta were like the Greek. We use them as Greek letters to kind of spoof the fraternities, and I know how much they loved us, but you're right, they didn't. But you're right, Alpha Beta is the thing of the past, so thank you.
Right, oh, no problem. I'm used to having to translate myself just junior days. Right, so you went on and got your master's and became a teacher. How did you find your way into writing? Tell us that story.
In writing, I had always loved children's books. My grandmother gave me tiny little books that I could hold in my tiny little hands, a lot of art in there. At about 40, I said, midlife crisis, I've got to do something more with my life. I want to have a voice. So I actually started painting first, and I ended up illustrating a book for the National Wildlife Refuge in Southern California. And then I said, you know, this book writing stuff is so easy. I'm just going to go ahead and send my work in. And we had the CS Hep conference was at the University of Redlands, and I met editors there and agents, and I sent them my work, and I was just stunned that nobody liked my work at all. And for 4 years, nobody liked my work. I thought it would be so easy. And after a terrifically horrible trip to Disneyland with our son, in which we left early, I came home and started typing up a story about a boy being afraid of a roller coaster. And that was my first book that sold. I quickly sold 2 more after that. And then Chronicle, which is a really big publisher, picked up 2 more. And now I'm with Viking. And I have 6 books coming out with Viking about families and sports, which just multi-generational family members playing games. So those will be in English and Spanish. And then I'm working on a couple more. So it's about every 2 years that they come out. It takes about 2 years for a book to print. So I'm always looking for ideas so that I could sell a book every 2 to 3 years is my goal.
Excellent. I have so many questions that I want to ask, although I have to stop again just to make sure that everyone's following the sort of insider conversation that we're having. So you're referring to the Charlotte Huck Children's Literature Festival that's held on the university campus, okay, which is hosted by the School of Education and is named in honor of Char Burgess's aunt, Charlotte Huck, who was a major figure in children's literature education and getting children's literature into the classroom and teaching teachers how to
She has a book, yes.
Yeah, authored the textbook in the field. Yeah, fantastic resource on campus, and I'm constantly trying to get my students to attend.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I just wanted to bring everybody along with us.
Thank you. That's why you're here. I have no idea what I'm throwing out at you.
You're wonderful. So I'm curious, in a few minutes, I do want to share one of the books that you've written in our conversation with our audience. But I noticed when you mentioned the books that are coming out with Viking, that they'll be about sports. What took you in that direction? That seems a little different than some of what you've talked about before. So I'm curious about your relationship to sports and which sports are prominent within those 6. So tell me more about that.
I wrote a book about golf because I think golf is a crazy sport, and I laughed out loud at my book. I thought it was so funny. So I have an agent, and I should explain. I send the book to my agent and she says yes or no. If she says yes, we're pretty sure it'll get published because she's the gatekeeper to publishing houses. And I do not send.
I'm going to interrupt to ask how you found an agent, because we might have people listening who are
Yes.
curious about breaking into publishing. How do you go about getting an agent?
Southern California Bookwriters .com, SCBWI, Southern California Bookwriters and Illustrators.com, SCBWI.com. That's how I clicked on them. I joined them. I think it's $60 a year. They have meetings all over the United States, writing groups, chances to meet with editors and agents. So I met with my agent in like Newport Beach, and there was an agent day and I got to meet her and I showed her my work. I was brand new and she said no. And the day ended for me. 2 years later, I have 3 books out and I say, hey, would you be interested in talking to me again? And she said, yes. So I published my first 3 books alone, but this writers organization has agent days, editor days, writing days. And it's a great way to meet. So I've met friends there, and I'm still involved with that. So that's where I learned. I also took a course from Marla Frazee in Pasadena at the Art School of Design. She wrote Boss Baby, which was made into a movie with Alec Baldwin as the main character. Well, she teaches in Pasadena also, as well as writing. So I took a class from her and she showed me how to set up a book. It's 32 pages long. And I had a little dummy sheet where I made 32 pages and worked from there. And that helped me with spacing and timing.
Nice.
So with the sports books, my agent said, no, golf isn't going to work, but would you try Vikings looking for sports books? So I did a baseball one, a football one, and a soccer one, and Viking Bottom, and made it into this family activity. And I used to, as a child, to get us out of the house, my dad used to take us all to the park so my mom could have quiet. So this was so easy for me to write. I knew all the moving pieces, and they're going to be board books in English and Spanish for young children learning to play sports.
Excellent. So does it cover sort of fundamentals about the sport or the history of the sport, or just how fun it is, or what's the...
It's a walk into the park with your family. It's warming up. It's a lot about learning how to play the sport and losing before you win. So the main character is trying the best to put the football helmet on, but they end up looking out the ear instead of the front because they don't know how a football helmet works. Trying to kick the ball or pass the ball, and everything goes wrong until they magically figure out this is how you do it. And so it's siblings and grandparents and all that playing ball together, and it can get comedic when the big sister is yelling at the little brother, why can't you do this? In the end, the youngest child wins, as in most fairy tales.
Right. Younger son comes through in the end.
The book usually ends with the child going to bed with the lucky helmet next to them or the lucky soccer ball under their arm. So it's how you play the game, how you be not a sore loser, that sometimes magic happens and you get to win. And so it's about family.
Lovely. I actually got my sons are 13 and 16 years old, so far beyond little children. But I actually got them to go to the park with me and just kick a soccer ball around for the first time in years. And it was so much fun. But at one point, one of my sons, we were playing a game where we kicked the ball off the wall back to each other. And one of my sons was like, why can't you kick harder? I'm like,
what's wrong with you?
I'm your age. What do you want?
That is fodder for my next book. Let me tell you, I try to overhear conversations like that so I can use
It was really, I think it was the most laughing we've done since quarantine started. So it's really good time.
Exactly. That's what it's about. And just like you wouldn't have played soccer with them normally, but just to get outside with your kids. Yeah.
Move around, get away from screens. Not that there's anything wrong with being on screen. Exactly. The audience who is watching this on a screen. So I wanted to loop back to the question of agent for a minute. Again, just because there may be aspiring writers in our audience. Plus, I know once this is posted, I'm going to post the link on the English department Facebook page, and I know there are aspiring audiences there.
Okay, okay.
So how do you figure out an agent is a good fit for you?
I think for me, it's taken years to find out if my agent is a good fit. We've gone back and forth. She's with Andrea Brown Agency. She's not, her name's Kelly Sonic. She's not taking anyone right now, but her agency might be. And it has been figuring out what works between us, sending in different styles to her, taking her criticism. It is hard to take criticism, and I think that's where my skin has toughened, and I don't like to edit for people because it's painful. So she'll send me something and hurt my feelings, and then I have to realize, no, she's doing her job. Her job is to make money for me, and when she does her job well, I make money. So it is, and even the editors I work with, so after she sells the book, I work with the editors who then hire illustrators. I do not hire the illustrator. So they give me options to look at different illustrators. And for Love Is, I wanted to hire Claire Keane, and they'd given her as an option. She did the Disney movie Frozen. She was an animator on that. And they came back and said, no, you can't do that. And then they came back 3 months later and said, yeah, we're gonna hire her. And so you don't know what's going to happen with that. But then the editor she says, oh, I love your story. Now we're going to rewrite it. And you have to have tough skin. And I do not look like a tough person. I am not. I cry a lot.
Well, and it must be hard to reconcile two seemingly contradictory statements. We love your story, and now we're going to change it.
Completely rewrite. So that's where book groups come in, and taking the hard criticism and getting yourself back up. And I will tell you, I quit numerous times a day writing. I just quit. I go for walks. A candy bar is my favorite remedy for a bad day, but you've got to feel the anger. And if I just sat there, oh, everything's okay, that's not real.
Right.
And I don't think I could do it if I pretended that it was easy. It's a lot of critique it's a business. But I'm creative. I want to do it. I think I have something to add. And I would say to the creators out there, yes, no matter what you do, put your creativity out there. Someone's going to see it. The universe is going to feel it. And you're going to make the world a better place. So rejection letters, I could show you 1,000. So I'm not going to let you use that as an excuse to not write or create, because I got them. You're here. So use your time here to create beautiful pieces of art. Yeah.
Wonderful. So how do you learn the balance between when you say, okay, you're the editor, I'll take in your criticism, I'll respond to it, I'll make the changes, and the times when you say, no, this is how it has to be? I mean, when is a vision or a way of telling a story something that you go to the mat for, and when is it something that you can be more flexible about? How do you learn to tell that?
Yeah, it is a learning process. My first book, they changed no words. So gosh, I'm thinking this is so great. This is so easy. It's not. And so it's a discussion. What are you thinking when you say these words? Why do you want it this way? So it's a conversation. And I would say I'm pretty flexible. If you can convince me to change something or to go in a different way. These people have MFAs. They have masters in English. They know what they're doing. Convince me, and I have no problem with it. Or they'll show me where I'm weak in some area, and all of a sudden the light bulb will go on, and I'll say, "Oh, got it. This is what I need to do." So I'm pretty open, but they are very, I'd say, gentle. About that, it still hurts.
Right.
They're pretty gentle. Yeah.
Of course. And it sounds like, though, it can be very exciting when it has that sort of collaborative, like, oh, you've helped me see something about my own work that I hadn't before. So
yeah, and I think it gets lonely here writing. And so I like the collaboration that other people are rooting for me. And the marketing, marketing sits in on the meetings and says, do I want to sell this? Well, with Love Is, I think the president of the company said, oh my gosh, I'm behind this. They did posters and photo shoots and all that at their building. And so I knew, okay, I have a real big team behind me, and they're still selling that book. So
Nice. Well, that gives us a great segue to actually sharing some of it with our viewers. So I'm going to show off the skills that I have learned teaching a May-term class online and share my screen so that people can see the book itself. So here is Love Is. I'm going to move you down to the corner. Um, and this is the cover and charming little ducklings. I'm not gonna read the whole story because it would make me cry and I don't want to do that to myself. But I'm just gonna flip through some of the pages and ask you to stop us at pages that you would like to dwell on a little bit. So,
All right. Well, there are no words. The first page, and that's a teaching moment. There are no words as the duck follows the butterfly out of the park. And that's how you usually start a book, with no words, and then go through and the next page starts the wording.
that raises a question for me, since obviously as a writer, you're responsible for the text in the book. Do you have a page almost like a storyboard saying this is what you want the first page to show, or is this something that Claire Keene came up with as a visual? How did that play out?
What's beautiful about sharing it is I do write my notes, but that was not in my notes. And Claire Keene came up with that. And in another book, Zoom, the illustrator changed the middle of the book in such a beautiful way, made it so much deeper. And I had no notes about that. But usually I do put notes in parentheses of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, particularly, I mean, given your background as a painter, it would make sense that you think not just
Visualize
creatively, but
it,
also
yeah.
visually. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the story of a little girl who has found a duckling.
Yes. And she becomes a mom. Doesn't everyone relate to this?
Right, that I've made that face.
And then I love them cuddled up, but the beak to nose, that's how I always woke up in the morning. My son would be, staring at me, Mom, are you awake? Are you awake? And so I think it's relatable. Love
Excellent.
that.
The
And just a busy day being a mom.
Yep.
Yeah. And the duckling's growing. We're seeing it climbing the stairs. The muscles are getting stronger. And then the bath that was working so great, finally it's almost like a child walking. Finally, the duckling is too big. It has wings.
Mhm.
What do you do then? Do you hold it back and cage it? And so you kind of turn the page. What's she going to do with that energy the duck has?
Right. And the sparse text on this page does leave you on kind of a cliffhanger about that.
And notice the blues, it's kind of a sad page watching all the ducks migrate. Shouldn't I be there with them?
And her recognition of the upcoming or the
Yeah.
imminent departure. Yeah.
What she needs to do, it's fall now. The trees just, draping over the scene and making this just beautiful, almost soliloquy.
It's lovely.
And she's worried about her child, just like we are. And here's one thing for authors. You can't use a lot of big words. You notice there aren't many words on a page, but I use the word reminiscing. That a child could take away from this book the word reminiscing and understand completely what it means. Just adding a little, it's so powerful to know words, to have that vocabulary.
That's true. That's true. To make your voice heard, sometimes a good 50-cent word can make all the difference.
Yeah. And then here the seasons, our children change just like the seasons. We don't want them to grow up. And I have a grown-up son. I wrote this book for him as much as anyone else. He grew up and moved away, and you adjust to that. I love that the butterfly came back to the girl.
Right.
And then just hoping that what action you've taken pays off for your child or for your duckling. She took the right action. She set it free, and look at that. I love her yellow dress with the yellow duckling. And now she's got all these little baby ducklings who are all over her. What a treat to know that she did the right thing.
Right. That's just lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going stop sharing and return to our conversation. So you mentioned your career as a teacher as well. So I have a sort of twofold question. Obviously, it feels as though the world is coming unglued around us from multiple stresses, both the pandemic and the responses to systemic racism in our society. So one of the things that comes up for me a lot when I teach children's literature and young adult literature at Redlands is students asking the question, how do you talk about difficult subjects in children's literature, and trying to walk that line between not wanting to sugarcoat things in a way that will disadvantage children, but also not wanting to give them too much too soon or sort of traumatize them in the process or re-traumatize them for some students. So how do you negotiate that both as a writer and as a teacher? So if you want to talk about your teaching career a little bit first, please do, and then we can think about that question.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I taught children's lit at Cal State San Bernardino, and I think the students came in thinking piece of cake class. And,
Always.
you know, all you have to do,
Clap for a grade.
and the books are only 32 pages long. But by the time they left, they had cried at least once or twice in my class from books we had read. I'm like, I gotcha. Authors, books are so valuable. Authors are able to really bring the voice, give children a voice, reflect their images, reflect what they're going through. And I was telling you yesterday that I know this is probably hard to see, but Eve Bunting wrote a book, Smoky Night. So I read this every year, and it won a Caldecott Award. David Diaz did the pictures, and they say to me, oh, that was the Rodney King riots. And I say, no, that was the Watts riots in the 60s that I witnessed. Oh, that makes me old. And then as an answer to the Watts riots, and this is what I feel in my heart, my mom and her church took us kids into East LA to go along with them to teach kids how to read and to build a bridge to, from different cultures, different communities. And I was shocked by the kids my age that couldn't read. And and my mom said, I'm showing you something different. This is different than what you know. Be gentle, be kind, and don't show off. So I just sat back and watched. My favorite memories were playing with those kids. And I learned. They learned a lot. I learned a lot about respecting different cultures. So now I feel like Eve Bunting's book, Smoky Night, people are going to say, oh, it's about what just happened. And it is. It's timeless. I think good writers can capture the voice of the moment, the feelings of the moment, and they can help you as a child express your fear or the words you're feeling. And in this book, it has two cats that are fighting all throughout the writing as the family has to leave their apartment complex that is caught on fire. And at the end, the cats make up, and it's kind of a funny ending, but the child says something, isn't it funny how more alike they are than they thought? And the people all looked at each other from all different races. That's us. We're more, when we have to work together, we're more alike than we're not. And so that's where writers can do just kind of heal children and bring up tough topics. So I read a lot of, and Tango Makes Three is another tough topic.
Right.
Yeah, and so I read those.
Actually, we should stop though and tell people what Tango Makes Three is about, because we just did that inside language thing again.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We can't help it.
And Tango Makes Three is about families, how families are formed in so many different ways. And this real penguin family at Central Park, two guys were best buddies all their lives, and they didn't know they were both guys, and they built a nest and they couldn't lay an egg. And finally the zookeeper put an egg underneath them, and they sat on that egg as long as they were supposed to while one got food, and they traded places, and they had a baby named Tango, and they raised that baby just like other folk do. And you can go to the zoo now, well, not right now, and see Tango swimming, but you can't tell when you see the penguins on the cover of the book. And I always ask, well, which one's the mom, which one's the dad, and which one? And they always say, you know, male, female, baby. And then I read the book and say, huh, have we learned anything about families here? And it's not that I want to get a point of view across, it's that I want them to be able to share books with children who may have a different kind of family than you and I had growing up. So there are books like that that I think are great for adults, but also speak to children when we don't have the words. There are books about grief that help us find the words. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way that you've articulated that. I hadn't quite put that together. In children's literature, we talk a lot about books serving the purpose of being a mirror so that people can see themselves in it, or being a window so that they can see out into a different reality than the one they inhabit. And your description of going and working with children from disadvantaged backgrounds is a great illustration of a window into another world. And literature can do that for us. But I like your point that literature can also help us recognize things about things that we don't yet have words for, and can give us the language for something. And it does seem like that would be particularly powerful for children who may be having feelings that they don't know how to process or how to understand, and to be given language for it and reassured that this is not a bad thing, you know, particularly when there are feelings of anger or fear, feelings that are kind of scary to hold in you. To be reassured that it's normal to feel that way can be a really powerful function of literature.
And you hope that there's someone there to help you. They try in the books to say someone will guide you, a friendly figure, parent, whoever will guide you and help you. And I know if we don't have language for things, it doesn't exist. Well, think of a child trying to learn the language of what they're experiencing now. If they could put a word to it, I'm scared, I'm angry, I don't understand, it just makes it a little more able to understand what's happening. So
yeah. And the more precise and nuanced, I mean, this makes me think of your choice to use reminiscing in This Is Love, because there have been studies about, we tend to do it particularly with male children, about using anger as a catch-all for emotion. So if a young male child has a strong emotion, to say, oh, you're angry, instead of giving a richer emotional vocabulary to process their feelings, that narrows their understanding of their own emotions until everything becomes anger. So to have fear, sorrow, nostalgia, all of the different, you know, very nuanced words we have for emotion, I think can help everybody explore their full emotional range in a really important way.
I agree. And I want to just add, I think a lot of anger is fear. I know that when I'm angry about something, it means I probably am very afraid of it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
For what it's worth.
Right. It's a way of turning that fear outwards and pushing it away. Yeah. Excellent. So what were some of your favorite books to, beyond Smoky Night and Tango Makes Three that you've mentioned already, to bring into the classroom? Because you were teaching primarily future teachers, is that correct?
Future teachers. I loved Esperanza Rising, the young adult book. There's a kid's book, The Dark by Lemony Snicket, that is so, I turn out all the lights, they're terrified. They're in their 20s, and I can terrify a room full of grown-ups with that book. It's just so funny, and it teaches you the value of the dark.
No, that's not in
the... Can't even, the dark. Mac Burnett, Sam and Dave dig a hole, and they end up in exactly the same place they were at the start. But the tree isn't like an orange tree anymore. It's now a pear tree. So you realize that they're on a different axis than you were, and you must now rethink the story. I love where the students have to rethink the stories. Right. Where the Wild Things Are, because it's just a classic, and how the pages start with a simple illustration, and then they consume the page until the child comes back home. And it is a lot how to deal with anger He tells his mom he hates her and he'll eat her up. He's just angry. He loves her. He wants to be with her. And it allows children to express that. Go to that angry place in the form of a nap or your imagination. Come back home, and guess what? Your mom still does love you because your dinner is still hot. So books like that, there's so many. John Klassen, I Want My Hat Back. And beautiful, What Do You Do with an Idea? So many beautiful books out there.
Wonderful.
That I love.
So the one by Lemony Snicket you mentioned, The Dark, that's not in the Unfortunate Events series. Is that a standalone? Okay, excellent.
Standalone, and it's a boy, and right off he has, and books you need to have a problem. Right off, he's afraid of the dark. You got your problem right there. Well, nighttime is going to come. Okay, so there you got your story. Well, what's he going to do? How is he going to figure out how to work with the dark? And it's just, every story needs a problem and the child needs to solve it. And the parents don't step in this. They could have, but they don't. And he figures it out, and he makes friends with the dark.
Oh, I've got to go.
I'm afraid of the dark. And I'm like, oh, how did you do that, Lily? How did you? And so it's just a lovely story of facing your fears. You don't have to be brave. He's still a little afraid of the world, but he faced his fears. And I think I'm the one, I grew up afraid of the world. So I like books that help me learn how to figure out how to get around things I'm fearful of, I guess. Yeah.
Right, right. I am making a note of that title. I don't know that one, so I'm going to go check that out. And you also mentioned Esperanza Rising. I just want to give a quick footnote on that one as well, by Pam Munoz Ryan. And it tells the story of her grandmother's immigration to the United States. And they had been part of the rancho culture in Mexico, and in the wake of the Civil War in Mexico, suffered backlashes against the wealthier citizens. And so they came to the United States to she and her mother came to the United States to try to start a new life, and worked as farm workers in California. So I love teaching that one in YA or middle grade classes, because it speaks to some of the shared experience of some of the students in our class coming from California. One of the students, we were reading it in the spring because I had synced it up so that they could hear Pam Munoz Ryan speak at the Charlotte Huck Children's Literature Festival. And she had gone home for spring break, and she came back to class, and she's like, I drove by where they would have been picking fruit. Like, this is here. This is our life.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. Yeah.
It really helped them connect to it. Mexican White Boy by Matt de la Peña has a similar effect because it's set
de la Peña, anything by him.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I don't know that one, but I know Matt de la Peña's name. Anything by him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wrote a book called Love. So what's next to love is love is fabulous. Love. Yeah, he really captured it.
And that book, so Love is a picture book by Matt de la Peña, who has worked primarily in YA fiction before this. But in Love, one of the panels shows a little boy sitting under a piano while clearly adults in the room are in the aftermath of an argument. So I think there's something knocked over in the room, and the male figure is walking out the door and the female figure is weeping, and the child is crouched under the table. And when the book was published, de la Peña got a lot of pushback about how could he show something like that in a children's book, because it was clearly a family struggling, if not actually falling apart in that moment, and the effect on a child. And it sparked several op-ed pieces, including by de la Peña and Laurie Halse Anderson, author of Speak. And I think Jason Reynolds wrote about it as well. And de la Peña said, look, this is reality for children, and we do them a disservice if we try to pretend it's not. And so we have to tell them their lives, not just the lives we want them to have, but also the lives that we have to recognize they do have. And it became it had a moment of a lot of attention.
I can see that. I can see why people don't want to teach the books that are not picture perfect. But we've got to reach our students where they are and show them their lives. And if that is their life, you've just saved their life, because you've given them, in my view, you've given them the words or the understanding, I'm not alone. other
Right.
people have gone through that. It may not have been my experience, but my gosh, that child sees themselves even maybe in a different manner, but they see the parental struggle.
Mm.
You've opened up like validity. You've validated the child's experiences. So
Right.
I'm all for books that speak the truth.
Yeah. Even
Last Stop on Market Street is a great book.
yes, that is.
That speaks the truth. And a young child, why can't I have this? My friend gets this. Why can't I have that? And they're coming out of church, which is really now, I know millennials don't like church, but grandma's bringing that kid out of church. You're like, wow, you were brave to do that. I'm surprised your editor didn't say, no, bring the child out of a library instead of a church. But
Interesting.
yeah, it's just, I think books open doors. How many children can we touch by writing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to get cozy and keep asking questions, but I feel like we've hit a kind of natural place to wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to add, particularly to fellow alums or current University of Redlands students?
I would like to say, hang in there. You're coming out into a difficult time, difficult world. And when my son graduated, it was a difficult world for finding jobs. Um, Keep going one more day. Find a source of light. You guys are experts at maneuvering on the web or computers or whatever. Keep doing that till you find the light and call a friend. Reach out and call a friend. Time of need. We all have to do it. I've done it. Please, can you come over and have coffee with me? Yes, I'll be right over. This isn't going to destroy us, but if you need help, if this is a depressing time, get help, call someone. It's okay to feel this way, but do something about it. And I'm just proud of the university. I'm proud to be from it. I have 7 family members that attended University of Redlands, and I'm amazed at what our students are doing in all walks of life. So really, I'm just really proud of our students, of our alum who are out there. I just went to see Porgy and Bess, 6 months ago.
Oh, with Angel Blue?
Yes, and here she's the star, and then I get to meet her not backstage, but afterwards. And I'm like, oh, you're a normal person. Oh my gosh, you're a normal person.
She's a lovely person. I got to meet her while she was a student. She sang for a colleague's retirement function. I'm so sorry, that's my phone.
That's all right.
And she was just so lovely to talk to. She's really
down to earth. Yeah. She had every right to be like, I'm so much better than you. I am on the national stage. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm so proud of our alum. And thanks for having me here today. And thanks to Tracy for setting us up. And
yes, this is such a pleasure.
Yeah, Heather, I enjoyed every minute.
Same, Diane, same. And we'll do it for real sometime soon too.
House with coffee in a backyard.
That sounds great. That sounds great. And we can each bring a stack of books to share.
Wow, love it. Love it. Thank
Excellent.
you so much, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You are welcome.